First of all, I want to thank Father Jessica for trusting me to preach a mission at 83. I said, wow, what a gamble. However, I just want to reassure you, I heard a good saying, I've got my marbles, but there's a hole in the bag. Well, of course, a few things about myself. I was born in Pocket Corners. Many of you know where that is. March the 27th, 1940, on the kitchen table at 8:45, my mother said. I grew up out in the country, lived in the town, grew up in Riverside, Ontario, St. Rose Parish, went to Corpus Christi High School, taught by the Ursulines, of which I really appreciate. Went to the seminary, ordained in 1965, 1 year at St. Rose Parish in Riverside. Overseas for 3 years to get a little more learning into my head. Back at the seminary, and I stayed there for 51 years. And when I left the seminary, one student said, "Congratulations, Father, you finally figured out how to get out." But it was a good run, and he was a good student too. He did his homework, right? So I enjoyed teaching, and the permanent deacons as well, which I got going back in the year 2000. So that's a little bio of my life. The subject I want to work on, and it fits right in with that first candle, hope, sparks of hope. I think that's a good subject for today. We need hope today because we got a crazy world. And I'm going to use my life to illustrate some of these sparks as we go through the mission. I'd like to begin by saying in my lifetime, all kinds of empires have fallen. When you think of it now, I'm 83. World War II ended in 1945. That was the end of the German Reich. The Japanese Empire, that fell at the end of the war. We know that. 1989, the Soviet Union collapsed with the fall of the Berlin Wall, you recall. And country after country just simply collapsed. I cried watching that on TV. I couldn't believe it. And then the colonies, well, the British Empire is pretty thin. And then all the other colonial powers like France, Spain, Belgium, Holland, all of these empires have kind of fallen. Democracy's under threat. We're wondering, we could have a dictatorship. Hard to believe, but that can happen. So my simple point here is things keep changing, and we've lived through it, and it's amazing. But in this, something strikes me. I remember reading this by Father Karl Rahner. He said in the Old Testament, the only social institution that was created by God is marriage. Marriage. That's got a made by God label on it. You really have to think about that. And the second social institution I would add in the New Testament is the church. Those are the only two that I can think of that have a made by God label on them. That gives me hope, by the way. That gives me hope, and I'm going to unpack these now and see where we're going with this. You know, when I was first ordained, we had to make a will. So I did. I wrote everything down. I gave my Telefunken hi-fi set to my sister. I gave my Ford Meteor to my brother, gave my books, I don't know, to the seminary. And then I gave $5,000 to the pension fund, $5,000 here, $25,000. I go and see the lawyer, Mr. DeRozier in Windsor. "Oh, Father Prieur, very generous of you." "Yes, yes." And then he says, "This $25,000, I presume you've got that money." I said, "Of course not, but I probably will by the time I die." And he looked at me like this. I went home and told my father. You know what he said? "And they ordained you?" Anyways, that's one of my Dumber and Dumber stories. I got lots more. All right, things can change, yet there are constants. Now, I've got 4 hopeful signs that I really like. Now, I'm a Vatican II person. The Vatican Council was 1963 to 65, but I grew up in a pre-Vatican II church. So that was what I grew up. I mean, I went to Mass. Mom taught us our prayers, which I don't think is bad, any of those things. And then I even played Mass at home. Remember, my mother made some vestments for me out of flannelette blankets, flannelette sheets, two-tone, green and red. And I remember I used peppermints for hose and tomato juice for the wine. And my sister always wanted to go to communion twice, and I wouldn't let her. Linda, no, once is enough. Anyways, that was me growing up. Well, after Vatican II, think of these questions. And this, for those of us who lived before Vatican II, these things would have been unheard of. Mass in our own language. Mass was in Latin. Think of it. And then lay ministers giving communion. Never, we'd think. And then think about saying Mass in a bedroom. That was strictly forbidden. And yet I said Mass many times for my mother, who was sick, in her bedroom after Vatican II. And then going to a Protestant church. Nope, that was a sin. Now, see the changes. We've taken for granted now. But that's wonderful. And then even being buried, a non-Catholic being buried in a Catholic cemetery. Nope. You were buried just outside the boundary of the cemetery, recall. Mixed marriages. My aunt had to be married to my uncle in the rectory, not in church. Imagine. Can any of you relate to these? This is pre-Vatican II. And freedom of conscience, telling a person in confession, now you've got to follow your conscience now. But tell me, Father, is it right or wrong? I can say objectively, but for you have to make up your mind. Oh, well, but that's valid today. Of course it is. Reading the Bible. Once I remember, Mom, how come we don't read the Bible? Oh, the Protestants read the Bible. We go to church on Sunday. Really? I said to my mother. All these attitudes were there. They changed. And I think there were changes for the better. That's my point. When you think back, I don't want to go back to those. Those were good, healthy changes in the life of the church. So they're the permanent deacons. Morgan, you were just a glint in the people's eyes way back when. But now we've got them. Wonderful. Now in my lifetime, there have been 7 popes. 7 popes. Pius XII, John the 23rd, Paul VI, St. Paul VI, St. John the 23rd, John Paul I, St. John Paul II, Benedict the 16th, and Pope Francis. 7 popes. All different, all good popes. If you know any church history, we've had some bad ones, like really bad. Go back to the Borgias. You want some good reading, spicy reading, read about them. They were awful. However, God works through right straight with crooked lines, and that's true. Pope Francis now. Oh my, what a pope. And it's interesting, this pope. First of all, Pope Francis, of all 7 popes I've mentioned, many others, is the only one that I can think of who's publicly apologized for making a wrong decision several times. That's not bad. The other 6 popes didn't, just in public. Popes just don't do that. Pope Francis did and continues to do it. And secondly, with the environment, the big conference going on right now in Dubai, the Pope is ahead of the curve. He's got 2 documents. You've got to discover them, Laudato Si and Laudato Deum. And I read a little comment that said, you know, he's brought the church's teaching on the environment from being in the kindergarten to the PhD level. Not bad. The church has something to say to the world about the environment. And they're reading him and saying, look what Pope Francis says. So that's a feather in his cap. That gives me hope, by the way, when I see things like that. When I see this remarkable Pope, Pope Francis. Now, the others were good too. I don't want to take away from them at all. So that's what gives me hope. And then for the women, you know, now the church is, the doctors of the church is a big deal. These are the all-time great saints. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, these giants. Well, recent popes, beginning in 1970, have made women doctors of the church. And it's interesting. St. Catherine of Siena, St. Teresa of Avila, 1970, St. Therese of Lisieux, the little flower, a doctor of the church, and then also St. Hildegard of Bingen. And if you want some good reading, read about Hildegard. She was a musician. She was a doctor. She understood cosmology. She understood nature. The woman's remarkable. Get a book about her and read. I just recently read about her. Wow! Women, good sign. Finally, that all-male group of doctors of the church legitimately has women in it now. That's progress. That's a sign of hope. I like that. So, these are some of the things I've seen happen. And finally, to finish on the church, the synod. Now, Pope Francis, boy, is he challenging us, and we can all learn from this. They had to go to Rome, and they sat in tables of about 8 at the table. Cardinals, bishops, lay people, lay women, deacons at the same table, and left, right, up, down, same table. And they had to listen to each other. And the method they used, you come in for the first 10 minutes, shut up, and pray. And then talk for 10 minutes. And then shut up and listen to the Holy Spirit, 10 minutes. And then talk. Do that 3 times. That was their method. Can you imagine holding a meeting of the Knights of Columbus or the CWL and doing that? That'd be a challenge. But that's the method. And they came away from it saying, wow, we were listening to the people at the table. We weren't arguing. We were trying to walk with them. That's what the Pope means by this synod approach. That's phenomenal. They did it for about 2 weeks in Rome. All these give me hope. That's my point. They give me hope. And this hope raised on the church. The second sign of hope I see is marriage and the family. First of all, look at these little kids up here. Isn't that wonderful? And so genuine. And so that's family. That's marriage. That's not going to go away. Thank God people are having kids. Kids. We need them in Canada. We need them in the world. And so there they are. Hope. And you know, a little tidbit, I love when I see, say, a mother pushing a buggy. I love saying, God bless you for having that child. Nobody's ever said, don't give me that. Nobody. Do it. God bless you for having that child. Now, maybe she was thinking of an abortion even. She had the baby. That's good news. That's hope. Now, about marriage and the family. I come from an interesting family. The Raymond and Louis Prieur family, my grandparents, my father's side, had 14 children. Now, my dad said you had to move fast at the table. The food came around only once. All right, 14 kids. Interesting, recently, number 11 celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. In that family, 11 of the siblings celebrated 50 years in one family. We sent it into the Guinness Book of Records. It was a world record, except when we sent our daddy in, they said, uh-oh, there's 3 families that have 11. You've tied that, but now one family's got 12. Have you got any more? Said to my dad, well, no, we've run out. How many 50s here? Hands up. Any 50s? 55. 60. Whoa, wait, look at 60. Congratulations. See, this is a good thing. And this is we don't brag about it, we're grateful for it. That we're not proud, we're grateful that we could see fidelity. All right, a lot of marriages don't fail. We believe in forgiveness, we believe in hope. So marriage and family, that's my second big one. And like I said, marriage is not going to go out of business because it's got a Made by God label on it. Not bad. So that's the second thing. Now, the third thing is that God works most powerfully in a crisis, the pandemic. Now, I had never lived through a pandemic. none of us had, because the last one was 1918, the Spanish flu. 50 million people died. 50 million. It was big. People were dropping dead in the streets, they said, the pandemic. The big difference about the COVID pandemic, airplanes. That's why it went around the world so fast. They weren't there in 1918, had a few airplanes, but not like we've got today. That changed everything. This was a worldwide pandemic because of the airplane. Interesting. All right, we lived through it. All I can say is time was flat. Christmas, couldn't go to my sisters in Michigan. Easter, couldn't go to my brother in Newmarket. No Holy Week services in church. Did you ever live through anything like that? And how did you feel? I just felt things aren't right. I'm cooped up in my apartment. 6 months after it started, my good friends next door, Mike and Sue Trombley, said, Mickey, we've been thinking of inviting you into our bubble. Sunday supper. Would you come? Yes. However, there's a condition. You have to eat at the kiddie table. So I had a card to keep that distance, remember? So every Sunday night, I went and had supper with them. Oh, did I appreciate that. COVID. And we've all seen it. Now, every crisis has two sides to it. The Greek word for crisis is krisis, spelt with a K. And by the way, all my points are in a handout at the end. You can pick it up if you want to review what I said. Crisis, it means both danger or opportunity. Well, what did we learn from COVID? I think we learned a lot. Like in nursing homes, we found out 4 people in a room is just too many. Viruses love that. So we had to cut back on that. And we were ignoring that for years. The work schedule. Working at home all week? Are you out of your mind? We won't make any more money. Wrong. Now we've got different work schedules. Giving people time off, even at work, to exercise, pray, meditate. You know what they discover? When you do that with your company, you make more money. Your workers are more awake in the afternoon if you give them a good pause midday. Hello? Interesting, because we dip midday. The European siesta is not out to lunch. Pun intended. So there it is. So like I say, the crisis, we've made and we're still making new discoveries from it. Well, that's a plus. Isn't it interesting how God can work through something, a disaster, and bring about hope? So that's my third one, the pandemic. And I've discovered too, I read about this, for us retirees, they're telling us, you know something? You need an artist day once a week. What's that? An artist day is a day when you just change your routine and do something different. So what do? Saturdays, I make a peanut butter and jam sandwich. I put an apple into my sandwich and some veggies in a bag, and then I go for a ride in the country. And one day I ended up in downtown Shedden. Downtown Shedden. Have you ever looked around in downtown Shedden? I walk around, have my lunch, have a little snooze in my car, check it out, liquor store there, bought some supplies. That's called an artist day. And you come home refreshed. And that's what we're discovering. We're not a machine. We need days of refreshment. And that's the meaning of the Sabbath. 1 day in 7. With everything open on Sundays and whatnot, we're forgetting that. This 7 days, 24/7 schedule is not the way we function best. Talk to the Creator. The Creator is, hey, 1 day out of 7, slow down, smell the coffee, and praise me. That's what it's based on. We need it as humans. And they've also, just another little thing I read recently, you know, if you listen to birds in the morning, especially in the spring, 5 minutes of listening to birds will pep up your feel-good hormone called endorphins for 6 hours. Listening to birds gives you a jump on feeling good. Try it. But nothing in your ears, no radio, nothing. Just listen to the birds. We are hardwired to be part of nature. Tonight I'll talk about that in my presentation. We've been doing this for millions of years. You just don't reverse that overnight, genetically. Think about it. My last one here is hope, in terms of our faith now. What's the fundamental hope that I have for our faith? Well, it's based on the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. He has overcome death. Jesus Christ is in heaven, he's pulling for us, and he wants us to go there. That gives me hope. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not too interested in how it's going to happen. There's a difference. However, that's hope. That's the ultimate hope we have. We're going somewhere. Boy, does that give me hope. So, and all part of it. And then I see hope in terms of people who really are willing to do whatever they can for others. That's the cross. That's the death of Jesus. When I see charity, when I see people wheeling somebody in a wheelchair, helping out a handicapped person, that's hope. And by the way, that hope there, and I want to throw that in right now, you can change culture. My simple example is handicap availability. Think of all the things in the last 20 years that we've changed for the handicap. Think of sidewalks. They bevel them when there's a curb, make it easier for a wheelchair to go down. Press a button, the door opens. Think of traffic lights that talk to you for the sight impaired. Think of elevators all over the place now. This church, your elevator. All that is new, folks. Handicap, that's hope. And that means we're taking what Jesus said, I am with you, I am working in you, that gives me hope. So there it is. And one last thing gives me hope is the cross. And one little thing I like doing when I'm checking out at the grocery store, very often the cashiers will be wearing a nice cross, little gold cross. And I'll say to the person, would you like to tell me, that's a beautiful cross. Would you like to tell me how you got it? Oh, yes. My grandmother gave it to me for my first communion. And I say, wear it proudly. God bless you. Everybody can do that. And no one has ever said to me, don't you talk to me like that. They've never told me that. They filled with pride. And I said, what a wonderful grandmother you had. The cross. Do it. It's as simple as that. And you bring joy, you bring hope when you do that. So that's my point. All right, our mission now. Well, our mission, very simple. Tonight, I'm going to talk on one word, wow. Wow. And very simply, I've been looking at documentaries about our universe. And I keep saying, wow, wow, wow. That word means a lot. Tonight, we're just going to talk about wow. Tomorrow morning, Monday morning, we have Mass. And then the whole question of dying and death. And we'll talk about that. And it's all over. Remember now, everybody dies. Death and income tax are the only two certain things. So we're going to talk about it and what we're faced with in Canada. That's tomorrow morning. Then tomorrow evening, I love talking about this. My title, God loves to spend his mercy. It's like a rich person liking to spend money. God loves to spend his mercy. And that's what it's going to be, with pictures. All right, that's the program. So, bedrock hope. My friend Pat Mayhew, he had a great line. He died. he used to say, "Why should I worry? My dad owns the universe." Think of that. And he believed it. Why should I worry? My dad owns the universe. Now, at the back of the church, there's going to be a little card, tiny little card, not very big. It's the bookmark prayer of St. Teresa of Avila. I asked Father to run off copies of it so you can put it in your prayer book or in your wallet, whatever. Here's what it says. Let nothing disturb you. Let nothing frighten you. All things are passing. God never changes. Patience obtains all things. Nothing is wanting to those who possess God. God alone suffices. In those 7 lines, she's got it all right there. Teresa of Avila. Wonderful saint. So we're going to continue the Eucharist today. We're going to receive the Eucharist. And like I told them last night, big difference. I had cereal this morning. I put some banana, a slice of banana on my cereal. When I finished eating, I didn't become a big banana. However, when we receive Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, we do become Jesus Christ. Think of that. If that doesn't give us hope, I give up.